guys? Welcome to another episode of the Weigh-In Podcast. I'm joined by my man Sugar Ray. How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing all right, thank you, man. This long days, long hours, but we keep it ticking, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Look, the sun is shining. I think that's the biggest thing now. The sun is shining on us, and
Sun's been a bit of a catfish. It's like it's shining, but the heat isn't quite there yet. But you know, it's something.
I mean, let's be honest, we're in the UK. When's the heat ever really that good? We're not getting them 35 degrees and stuff ever here. We're gonna get 14 with a gusty wind, but we see the sun. We're good. We're good. Someone's
Yeah,
gonna
man.
have with the beer on. Someone's gonna do that. I don't know who it is. It's not me, but someone's
Yeah,
gonna have the beer on. But yeah, bro. Other than that, I'm all good.
good.
So we're here to talk about Showtime boxing. If you saw a previous episode, we did talk about British boxing and where that is a standpoint. And recently, Showtime brought out their spring-summer schedule. And if we bring that up now, it is actually filled with some very big fights. You've got both the Charlo brothers, you've got Benavidez that's on the card, and the two big red highlighters, Errol Spence and Gervonta Davis. So for me, I'm looking at this card and I'm just excited. I'm excited. What I mean by that, I'm excited month for month. And that's the one thing I want to go through with you to start with. We've got April.
Yeah.
Let's look into April. We do have Errol Spence and Ugas. I think if you were just to put that without the schedule itself, you'd just be excited in general. So
Definitely, for
yes,
sure.
I guess for me to you, how excited are you for that particular fight and what it represents at 147?
This is like a big unification fight. Obviously, I'm sure Errol Spence will feel robbed of the moment of fighting Pacquiao that Ugas, you got to give him credit for, stepped up for. So it's going to be a big unification bout. And with, free agent Terence Crawford in the wing, this is going to be a big fight that people are looking at. So I think just implications of where this fight shifts the division, and also will it make negotiations harder, because Terence Crawford has been praised at pre-penny before, but if Errol Spence gets his third belt, he's the A side, and then being the A side, he gets to call more shots, and Terence Crawford may not be too happy with them shots being called. But before we get to all of that, is an intriguing matchup. Ugas has come in like the dark horse and basically messed up a lot of plans by beating Pacquiao. So it'll be just an intriguing fight. That's a big one that's coming up in less than a month's time. So that's definitely one to keep my eye on.
And then moving to May, we have Jamel Charlo defending his junior middleweight titles. Again, we've always had this thing with the Charlo brothers and Canelo, who's ducking who, and I guess having the build of a Charlo name against going straight after Errol Spence. How important is that for Showtime to keep that momentum going, keeping people intrigued by having big fights where all the belts are on the line, or 3 out of the 4 are on the line?
Yeah, I think this builds up the anticipation for, I guess they've been looking to make, well, essentially it was both Charlo's big stars, but I think this is now Jamel's point where, because this is for Undisputed, so now it's kind of like, this is your moment to going to the next upper echelon, at least in the States, in terms of being a household name. Obviously, the first fight ended quite controversially. It was a draw. Some people thought Castaño won. Some people thought Jamel just barely pipped it. So a draw was fair to some. Others say that draw wasn't fair and Castaño should have won. So this is also going to be Jamel's redemption story of, is your bite as big as your bark? And one thing we do know about Jamel, that he is a ferocious competitor. So let's see if he's game in the second fight to make himself that marquee star that he thinks he deserves to be. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it, because the first fight, I think because maybe Castaño wasn't as big in people's name in the mainstream, that people were just like, okay, Jamel's just going to go collect that belt. So now that more people recognize his name, this is going to have more eyes on it. And man, I'm a Charlo brother fan, so I'm looking forward to this, seeing what Jamel does.
I think, and then staying in actually May, you have Benavidez that's fighting. And the reason why he brings interest to me is then you look at the guy that just literally moves division to division, fights whoever he picks and chooses, being Canelo. Can Benavidez deliver, for me, in my opinion, if he delivers a standout performance, does he get the interest of Canelo at all to go ahead and get a fight?
I think what happens here is he's obviously also had a long-standing rivalry with Caleb Plant. So if David Benavidez gets through this and then also gets through Plant, because obviously, you know, Canelo's famous payday, you want payday. I think it's caused a lot of fighters to be stagnant waiting for Canelo. And what Canelo said was right. You lot need to start fighting each other because you can't just keep on waiting on him. So with Benavidez, it's kind of his own fault that he never got the Canelo fight in the first place, because I think he's been stripped twice. Once for missing weight and once for, I believe, drug testing. It wasn't performance enhancing. It was, you know, a bit of booger sugar. That's a bit of an old school term. But he was playing with his nose a bit, and you know, so it's kind of like your ill discipline is what's made you put you out of the sweepstakes. So now he's trying to build his name up again, and I feel like it was comical when he was saying like Canelo's running from him to face Bivol, and I'm just like, let's not do that, people. If you want to be Team Benavidez, I get it, but let's not act like Bivol's some like, you know, bummy champ. Like, this is a certified guy at light heavyweight. So Canelo's looked to make history there. So I think whilst his time is, you know, Canelo's doing that, David Benavidez has two options. Get through David Lemieux and then rest on your laurels and see if Canelo picks you after, or he could win this fight and then make a bigger impact by either facing Caleb Plant, or he's potentially booked to face the winner of Parker versus Andrade, and you know, make a big fight where you can take both, you know, interim titles, and then it'll make you mandatory for Canelo by force. So, you know, David Benavidez, his future's in his hands if he wants to fight, but in this politics of boxing, it's never that simple.
I was gonna say, if I'm Benavidez, just on a quick whim, like on the outside, I don't hold out for Canelo because it looks like, based on what a lot of people are saying, the second fight on the zone is going to be the Triple G one.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 2023 to start off with.
Yeah.
Whilst you have it, you slot in a second fight this year, and you take a route, one of the two routes that you personally have mentioned, and you give yourself a bit more cachet for Canelo to be like, all right, okay, you've won your last two, I've done my two, and now let's go ahead. But sticking with in May still, Tank Davis is on the card. So May just looks stacked for Showtime.
Yeah.
And always putting someone like Tank Davis on a card, regardless of what we feel about his attitudes and stuff, I think just gives you that final oomph to be like, look what we can give you in May. Are you excited to see Tank Davis fight again, or are you saying to him,
I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's enough now. Go for a title. I get it. I see what they're trying to do with him. And the thing is, I like what they've done with him is that they've made him a household name without having a belt. And especially
pay-per-view, like that's the thing.
However, it's getting to that point now where it's just like, you're not that big to be always a pay-per-view star without a world title, an actual super world title. Because obviously you've got like regular world championships and all that stuff that WBA do that's criminal, that basically is this a sanctioning fee for them. They just say, yeah, you can be a world championship. It's not the actual world champion. Yeah, but we want a sanctioning fee, so here you go.
The thing I was saying about that, I looked at it. To a casual, he's got a belt. He's a champion in some means.
Yeah.
It adds value to a fighter. But then when you really break it down, a regular to a super, you're not the actual guy. And that's, I think, a lot of things that, again, in boxing politics, it gets confusing for a lot of people.
The thing is, if I was in Gervonta Davis' corner with Josh Taylor dropping all the belts, I would have told him, you know, forget all these belts, go up. Especially the fact that he's known to struggle to get down to lightweight division of 135. I would tell him now is the perfect time. Cool, have this fight with Romero, get your profile up, and then get one of those belts that Josh Taylor's dropped. Because I think with a legitimate world title, I believe that's at light welterweight or super lightweight, however you want to call it. You can go there and make something of yourself, world title wise. And I don't know where he would fit in, but if you can get one of those world titles, then then it's like you'll be more of a bigger pay-per-view star. But I think now he's at that crossroads of, yeah, you're popular, but not everyone's going to keep on buying this world title stuff. The more people get more informed on the actual situation. But listen, man, that fight should be fireworks regardless. So I'm looking forward to it.
And just quickly, before I want to touch on Stephen Espinoza,
Yeah.
Jamel Charlo rounds it out in terms of our names for the summer spring schedule.
Yeah.
Are you interested to see him defending his WBC middleweight title, or is
This
it
is a disappointing one.
where his ship has sailed a bit?
Yeah, so he was meant to face. Well, they were gearing up to do Jaime Munguia versus Jamel Charlo. So these are two middleweights. Where with Jaime Munguia, this is a guy where he was also at that Gervonta Davis part where it's just like, okay, we get it. You're a big name, but you haven't really done anything at your weight division. And I think that was a big name that people are looking forward to see Jamel Charlo face, because his last fight wasn't as exciting as they would have hoped. I saw that he done big damage to his hands during that fight. So, always got to give kudos to the fight for fighting through that. But Jamel Charlo is also in that position where it's like, if you're not going to move up to super middleweight and be in the potential stakes of the Canelo fight, at least be dominant in your division, be more dominant. And I feel like you don't want to enter Deontay Wilder territory where it's just like you just keep on beating below par guys and not actually facing world championship guys. So I know there was like network complications with trying to set up the Jaime Munguia and Jamal Charlo fight, where I believe Showtime said that they would wanted the US to host the fight there, and then the zone could do it everywhere else worldwide. And apparently they couldn't agree with that. So at this point, I'm kind of like, do you know what? Get this title fight out of the way. But in the fall/winter time, they have to make that fight. But for me, both fighters need that, because both of them are in a similar territory where it's just like, who else are people going to want to see you fight? Like, you're only getting so far by fighting people that's not in the public eye. And that's no disrespect to Mazzy Edge, but that is what it is. However, there is a sleeper fight on this schedule that I'm looking forward to. That is Stephen Fulton Jr. versus Danny Roman. Stephen Fulton Jr. is a very slick fighter, but he can also box as well. And he's also, like, when he needs to, you can brawl it out. So obviously that's that super bantamweight, which might not always be the sexiest division, but Stephen Fulton Jr., trust me, watch his fights. This guy goes in there. When he needs to box, he'll box. When he needs to scrap, he'll scrap. He's got that dog in him, as they like to say. So Stephen Fulton Jr., that's like one of the guys that people should look out for as well.
On just quickly, and before we do wrap up, Stephen Espinoza, the Showtime schedule, have they nailed it for 2022 so far in terms of the spring summer? Because we've picked a few fights of big names without delving into too much detail early on. Should, I guess, because of where the fights will be in timing, I think, should US fans be excited? And should we now be staying up to be watching these fights?
I think these are a lot of cards to stay up for, especially, obviously, like I said, you got the Errol Spence Jr. first, Yordini Ugas, Jamel Charlo first, Brian Castaño 2. People are going to be intrigued by the David Benavidez first, Lemieux. And then obviously you got Gervonta Davis fight, Stephen Fulton Jr. You want to see what happens with Jamal Charlo. You got Tim Tszyu, son of Costa Tszyu. So I think Showtime has smashed it. And I think this is how you lay out your cards. And I think the most important thing now is filling the undercards right of these main events, because, like we had mentioned in the previous episodes, you don't want a case of everyone's just waiting for the main event and no one cares about your undercard. I'm aware that Boots Ennis is going to be fighting on one of these undercards as well. I believe it might be the Jamel Charlo fight. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. So that's also like another name. That's another good thing about these cards. Like you're building future stars. So if you don't know about Jerron Boots Ennis, get to know, tune into his next fight. He's meant to be the next big thing at welterweight. So that'll be interesting to see how he does. I believe that's for the IBF Eliminator. So if he wins that fight and Terence Crawford and the winner of Errol Spence versus Ugas doesn't get made,
He's on.
then Boots Ennis might step in there and he might just throw a big cog into the works of that. So listen, man, salute to Showtime because on paper, what a schedule.
It looks strong. I was gonna say, I feel like here with promotions, like the zone outside of the zone, I feel like we could look at them and be like, this is how you build it up. You bring the schedule out and you have like they've intentionally highlighted two guys being Spence
Yeah.
and Davis. Like, here you go. We know these are your household names, and then underneath that, this is what we've also got as well brewing. So, like you said, I think Showtime, Stephen Espinoza, they've nailed it. With that, we are going to wrap up our quick little episode today. Just a little recap to speak on Showtime's card and what we've got going forward. With that, guys, if you are enjoying the content, as always, like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on the YouTube page. Like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on all of our socials. _TheWayIn_ is the Instagram handle, and the Twitter page is the same _TheWayIn_. Ray, as always, thank you for coming on. And
Love as always.
with that, guys, we are going to wrap up. Love and peace, boys.